Hi,
Hi,
everybody,
everyone.
and good morning. This is Joe from Greenhouse Data, and we're excited to have one of our longstanding MSP partners with us here this morning, as well as our Director of Channel Programs. We're going to run through a little bit of educational content here. Our goal is to help you as an MSP be growing your services. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things off to Brian Parsons. He's our Director of Channel Programs, and he'll get us rolling.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. This is Brian Parsons with Greenhouse Data. I just want to really thank everyone for joining the webinar today on how to find a cloud partner. We're also joined by one of our longtime MSP partners. We're going to, just to let everyone know, we're going to record and share this webinar, so if you need to drop off early, don't worry about it. We will send you a copy of the webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Scott Anderson, who's the President and CEO from Core Business Services. Hey, Scott, thanks for joining us today, and we'll let you kind of take it from here.
You bet. Thanks, Brian. Excited to be here and chat with you today. So just a little bit about Core, so everybody knows who we are. We're a MSP based in Medford, Oregon, southern part of Oregon. Have 2 other offices throughout the state in Portland and in Bend. We are right over 10 years old. Have actually been working with Greenhouse for about half that time. I think it's been about 5 years now. We've been listed on the different industry lists as MSP Mentor 501 lists, I think 5 years running, Inc. 5000. And so have definitely sustained a pretty good growth track. And, we'll talk through today, I think, how cloud and working with Greenhouse has helped us with that. We're a pure play managed service provider that also does project work for different customers, and then with the goal of turning that into a recurring revenue as well.
Thanks, Scott. Before we get started, I'd just like to give everyone a quick overview on Greenhouse Data and who we are and kind of what we do. So Greenhouse Data, we started in 2007. We actually operate in 7 nationwide data centers across the northern part of the United States. We offer VMware-backed cloud solutions for public, private, and hybrid cloud. We also operate 4 different data centers in the northern part of the United States where we offer co-location as well. In addition to that, some of the solutions that we offer are backup as a service, disaster recovery as a service, VDI, things along those lines. As a company, we're very focused on sustainability and efficiency. All the power that we purchase is actually backed 100% by wind credits. From a compliance standpoint, we are SSAE 16, SOC 2 and 1 Type 2 compliant, as well as HIPAA compliant. And not to mention, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is a 15-minute hear from a human SLA. So one of the things that we'd like to talk to you about today is why maybe there aren't more MSPs that are utilizing the cloud as an avenue to gain more revenue. One of the things that we've seen is that, the popularity in cloud is definitely growing, and it's been said that, 78% of SMBs will adopt cloud computing by 2020, and today that number is 37% according to Intuit. So when you look at it from a business perspective, cloud partnerships can become an essential part of the managed service provider business in order to secure additional revenue that you may not be capturing today.
So yeah, Brian, so we've actually seen, per that revenue, we've probably seen a 20 to 40% increase in MRR. So in our average client spend, somewhere in that range, based on being able to integrate some cloud solutions into that stack. So it's all about identifying the opportunities, and I think part of that is really standardizing our offering on a per client basis. So one of the things that every client we work with does is back up to the cloud. So when we can offer that backup and DR service, you know, in partnership with you guys, all of a sudden our billings increase, our recovery time decreases in the event of a disaster, and it's a win-win for us and our clients. And, you know, I think as we start those conversations, we lead with our backup solution because we're that really believe in it that much. And then as we talk about other things, so we continually talk with our clients on a roadmap, and on that roadmap is hardware refreshes. And every time we're talking with our clients about a hardware refresh, you know, on that cycle, cloud is brought into that equation to start talking about is cloud a good fit for them? Is cloud a good fit, or is a hybrid type cloud environment the best fit? And we start talking about that pretty early in the process, so by the time those hardware refreshes come up or new applications come up, we've already started talking cloud, and now it's just a matter of determining the best way to provide it to them.
Scott, that's exactly what we like to hear. You know, and you're right on. And one of the points in time when clients tend to look at moving to the cloud is when they're refreshing their hardware. One of the things that I like to talk to our partners about is we understand that that's a part of your business, is selling that hardware, and we're not here to take that part of your business away. But what we want to be is a partner for you to help supplement that business in the event that your client openly is talking to you about moving to the cloud, so that you have that option. So what we'd like to do is look at some of the keys to selling the cloud. We tend to coach our partners on 3 different keys to successfully selling the cloud, especially for customers who haven't used in-cloud services to date, or they may have a little bit of apprehension about going to a public infrastructure as a service provider. So one of the things that we look at is, you know, to provide technical viability. And what that means is, you know, it's the right scale state of the cloud that for people that lack the expertise, so that they come to providers like us and work with companies like yours, Scott. So when they're moving to the cloud, we're there to help both you and the client determine what the right size environment is. So as a managed service provider, you're not left out on an island to try to determine exactly what they need. We work with our partners hand in hand to help figure out what that proper environment looks like. And the reason we do that is because this is where our expertise lies. So our engineers are able to dive in and really do that and help both you and your client determine exactly what they need. The other things that we look at is, you know, position the offerings around specific use cases or markets. And one of the things that you mentioned, Scott, was, you know, backup as a service or disaster recovery as a service, one of the key buttons that you're utilizing today. And that's very, you know, we've seen that same type of thing happen in our business over the last, you know, 12 to 18 months. That's a great way to start that conversation on cloud services for clients that are looking, you know, they don't have a disaster recovery plan today, and quite honestly, they can't afford to duplicate the production environment that they have in place. And when you have a situation like that, where you have a client that has a low RPO, disaster recovery is a great thing to talk about with them, and specifically disaster recovery as a service. And it helps, you know, it helps them to get that same type of RPO without having to duplicate that production environment. You know, there can be things when you're looking at it, compliancy issues. Those are things that we've seen in the market today when we look at healthcare with HIPAA, finance over the last, you know, number of years. And when you're talking to clients around those areas, they may have concerns because they're not building their environment out properly enough today to get those compliances that they may need by like PCI or HIPAA, things along those lines. And that's where our engineers really come into play and help design a custom solution that's going to fit exactly what they're looking for. Other things that may come into play would be like cloud analytics, where you're able to actually go in and look at the usage of the virtual machines that are on there, so that they know that they're getting exactly what they're looking for. And then we also dive in and we work with our managed service providers and our clients on the initial deployment and migration. It's, you know, when I talk about us building a custom solution that's built right just for the client, we really dive in on the front end to try to deliver that type of product. And then the last thing, sometimes when you're talking to your clients about cloud, it's really addressing the concerns about reliability and security. Part of doing that, and I think Scott would agree with me on this, is working with providers that have the compliancies that you need. So obviously we're HIPAA compliant, but also working in those providers in a hand-in-hand situation, so that you're actually having those conversations with the provider about security, so that they can design that custom solution that they know is going to fit all the different security requirements of that particular client.
Yeah, Brian, and I think, you know, the majority of kind of the pieces, you know, everything for me ties back to that you just talked about. When we're selling the cloud, really talks back to the partnership we have with you guys, and really ties into kind of vetting the cloud providers now, right? So, you know, our history before engaging with you guys was a couple other cloud providers, and you know, we had outages as well with these other providers. But on top of that, what really drove our conversation to continue the search was we wanted a true partner that we could you know, talk to, that would help us design solutions, that would help us engage with our customers better. So the partnership is really, I think, what when you talk cloud provider, what really needs to be the first discussion point. So many of the other things I think should happen no matter what, but the partnership, I think, is what really sets it apart. And that, you know, includes service, includes response time, knowing that we can get a person on the phone whenever we need to, and knowing that some key people know our key people, so that we have that technical relationship as well as more strategic relationship as well. You know, size of your support staff allows that to be done. And then, you know, free support, 24/7 support for us, again, is really, we're able to, you know, I don't want to say throw things over the fence, but there's times we do throw things over the fence and ask your team for what is the best way to go about this. And, you know, like you said, that is your expertise, not necessarily ours as much when it comes to the cloud. So it forms a good partnership in that aspect. And so customization, standardization for us is a big talking point. So much, I think, of an MSP's offering needs to be standardized, but there's times you do run into needing some more custom type solutions. And so really, how custom can we get in the cloud? Are we only offering standard solutions? We talked about we are offering standard backup and DR solutions for sure. And then we have other things that get more custom. So, you know, in our engagements with you guys, you can offer private networks, subnets. You can help us with custom solutions. And customization is really with the hardware for us too. So we co-locate some pieces with you as well. Mm-hmm. So we can use your more public cloud piece, and then we can also use some co-location equipment as well. And, you know, from my experience, I think touring the data center is something everybody should do in vetting cloud provider. When we talk Absolutely. About just getting your eyes on things to know how you can do a hybrid environment, some co-location, some cloud, and just from legitimacy, right? I think there's a lot to be said to actually tour the operation, to really see the security behind it, to see the gear, that it's fresh, that it's new, and backing up to really how to sell it to your clients. I think there's a lot to be said for me being able to talk to our clients to let them know, hey, I visit the data center quarterly. or twice a year. I've had a tour of multiple of the data centers. So just being able to kind of be able to say you've had that touch and feel, I think is part of the vetting process, but is also part of the ongoing relationship with the client, where we're really saying, hey, we're a true partner with Greenhouse, with our cloud provider, and our clients feel better about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think you're right on with touring the facility, and it's something obviously that we do that's a little bit different just than some of the larger players that are in the market. It's one of those things where now you know exactly where your client's information sits, and I think that helps. That probably helps on both with the client and then the trust with us as a company as well.
Yeah, for sure. We still one of the battles with the cloud is, even though it is so much more secure, your clients don't always believe that because it's not sitting under their desk or in the closet anymore. So at least for me to be able to say, hey, I've seen your data, not really, but I've seen the facility it's in,
yeah,
helps their feeling a little bit.
Absolutely. And that kind of ties right into when we look at different service guarantees and maybe some even red flags that pop up when, as a managed service provider, you're looking for a cloud and co-location provider to work with. It's one of the things that after you go and you look at the facility, then it's really important to look at some of the service guarantees that get offered by that particular provider in terms of, what do their SLAs look like? Are they overcomplicated? Is it going to be a complete pain to be able to get some compensation if there is any downtime? Or is it a pretty straightforward, easy process to say, hey, listen, if there's downtime, we know that there's 100% SLA, and if it's something on the provider side, they're going to be compensating us for it. That's compensation on that end, I think, is always something that's, it's important. More importantly, it's not to have any downtime at all, which is what we strive for, and that's why we have a 100% SLA agreement with our clients. And then when you look beyond the different SLAs that are provided, I think one of the next things that come into play after SLAs and uptime is really what type of compliances and audits may sit there. But I'll let you kind of dive into some of the importance of those types of things, Scott.
Yeah, you bet. And that 100% SLA is I think you can't overlook that. That's a pretty huge deal. And so we have, in 5 years, I can say not had to use that SLA, not experienced downtime.
Well, I like to hear.
Exactly, right? And honestly, we had experienced downtime with 2 other providers before that, and actually, had to use a SLA like that. So obviously, that's critical. And then the security piece for us is a big deal. So it's a selling point for us to be able to provide our clients with a copy of your SOC Type 2 report or with your HIPAA certification. So being able to say that and then being able to provide them with the reports behind that, it is just a differentiator compared to, there's so many MSPs, I think, that are selling cloud DR or cloud solutions, and they're essentially selling them out of their office, right, or their homemade data center or something. So for us, really the legitimacy aspect of being able to partner with the company who offers this layer of certification and security definitely distinguishes things. And so, if you're already an MSP, right, you're providing managed services for a number of different operating systems, applications, hardware types, and if you're going to move a customer to the cloud, we definitely want the provider who can help us in that migration and make it as seamless as possible for our clients, because at the end of the day, our clients really don't care who does the migration. They just care that it's done well, and that's where the partnership is so important. And so really, when you're vetting the cloud provider, you really need to ask them what platforms they offer. Are they going to be able to accommodate every service you want to offer? I think that's a big question to ask ahead of time, so you don't get into a play where you have to deal with multiple different cloud providers for different solutions. And along that line also, do they offer the licensing options that you need? There's a big difference there between a cloud provider who gives you some cloud infrastructure and a cloud provider who can take care of all of it. So the licensing on the Windows servers, do they help you with the install, the full migration? I think all those pieces are key so that you don't start getting, call it nickel and dimed, or so you don't start having agreements with multiple different players for your instances in the cloud. Our goal, again, is simplicity. So the more that we can have just one point of contact and one source makes it easier on everybody, and just, that accountability is better that way, so there's no finger pointing or anything. It's just simple.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things is, once you've found that provider that works with your platforms, we start to add into that is, hey, we found a provider we want to work with, but what about training? How do we know what we're doing on these cloud platforms if we haven't done that in the past? And that's part of where finding the right provider to work with can really change the game for you as a managed service provider. Understanding what kind of training that you can get from your provider, and who can help you with provisioning new VMs and starting and stopping virtual instances and those types of things, and where does that line of delineation start? Is it with the client? Is it with like Scott, like with you guys as a provider? And part of that is just the process of going through and finding the right provider that you're working with and talking to your provider about that to know where that really sits. And if you're lacking in those areas or need help in those areas, letting that provider know or letting us know so that we can help you, with provisioning new VMs and help you understand what the vCloud Director looks like so that you can manage those instances. So those are a lot of things that we kind of go into. So, it's like, can your cloud integrate with the services and the platforms you already offer? And that's great. And then, do we have the APIs that are native for compatibility to work with anything else that you may be offering?
You bet. And I think one kind of final point to talk about, Brian, is just, financial stability and how long our cloud providers can be around to partner with us. The last thing, an MSP would want to do is onboard a bunch of cloud customers, and then that cloud provider is acquired or worse, goes out of business. Really an established long-term partner is what you're looking for, and financial viability is a big part of that. In our case, we drop the Greenhouse name consistently, and every one of our clients knows the Greenhouse name, and they're utilizing them, and so just switching partners for us would be a big deal. So I think just knowing that your partner is going to be there for the long term is a big deal. And so how financially stable is the cloud partner, and asking for evidence of financial stability, longevity, customer success stories from multiple industries, and I think seeing a cloud provider who has expanded and grown recently and consistently, and that's in facilities, in technical staff, and product offering is a big deal as well. I think that growth is a good sign for them as well, and it increases our options for where to store data as well.
Yeah, Scott, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you look at the financial stability as really being a strong component of trying to select the right cloud provider for your company. Being in the industry, it's one of those things you kind of sometimes hear those horror stories that are out there about somebody that may have gone with a little bit smaller shop that's just standing up maybe just standing up a couple racks here, a couple racks there across the country, and then all of a sudden they get a call one day, and it's one of those calls that says, hey, you've got 2 weeks to get all of your information off of our servers because we're moving it out. And that's something as a provider, you don't want to go through that process, and that's one of the things that we work with our providers on, is to let them know who we are and what we're about from that financial standpoint. One of the last things that I think we'd like to kind of talk about here is really the different types of partner programs that are out there. And I think when you're looking at partnering with a cloud provider as a managed service provider, it's about finding, it's about finding all the technology and the things that go with it, but the other side of it comes down to obviously compensation, and then finding the right program that's going to fit for your company, because that's a big proponent of what I like to speak about when I talk to people that are looking to partner with us, and we have partners that may they partner with us on a number of different instances. So the way that we've built our program out is that myself as the director of channel programs, I'm a single point of contact for all my partners, and then what we do is we direct each one of our partners or opportunities that come in to one of our direct sales and engineering resources that's out in the field, so that we can better align those geographically throughout the country. And I think it makes for a smoother process. It also, as a managed service provider or somebody that's talking to the end client, starts to take away any of that fear of, hey, are you going to try to cut me out of this deal if you find out who my client is, and people like that. And so our direct sales team is actually compensated very similarly, whether they call directly into a company or whether they're working with a partner. And that makes a big difference for a lot of people that are out there. And when we look at what we do, is we actually have set up to run really 3 different programs with our partners. We've got a white label program, we have a reseller program, and then we have an agent program. And they're all a little bit different in their own right. With the white label program, we're able to make it look like it's actually your cloud product. With a reseller program, when they log in, they're going to see the specific providers, say like their dCloud director in our instance. And then in the agent program, what they're doing is you're actually going through and just referring that business over to us, and we work with you to procure the business, and then we pay out, you'd end up paying out like a monthly residual. And so there's benefits, there's pluses and minuses, I think, to each one of those programs. And so what it comes down to is really just having an in-depth conversation with the providers that you're looking at as to what those programs look like and how do they interact, and then making sure that you have the flexibility in hand that if you start down one road with one program, that you're just not automatically locked into that thing for the rest of your life, and that you have flexibility to work with that company to do what's right for your business, because that's a big proponent of what I try to preach here. It's about your business, Scott, and the managed service provider's business, not as much about my business, because I know if I can help you, then my business is going to grow in the long run. And then talk to them about the training that they can offer. Do they do onboarding training when they actually work on an opportunity together? Are there pre-sales training, pre-sales marketing collateral, things along those lines that may help actually, help facilitate that sales process? And understanding, there's a number of different managed service providers that are out there, and it's understanding what level can I work with this provider on, meaning maybe I want to run the whole ball game myself, and I don't necessarily want to integrate with that provider's engineering team and their support and look at those things. Or there's other providers out there that look at it and go, listen, I know what I do very well, and I know about the cloud, and I need it to drive more revenue, but I also need the resources to help sell these opportunities. And so it's really finding that program that's going to be the right fit for you, making sure on the front end that you're going to be able to get what you need out of that program. And then what types of types of migration and managed services that are offered. I think, when we look at a managed service provider, Scott, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you're making a lot of revenue today based off of being able to manage services for your clients, selling them hardware and doing things along those lines. And that's where as a cloud provider, I don't want to get in the way of that and want to allow your partners to be able to go in and still those services and earn income off of those additional services that they're doing. The only difference is instead of managing those services that sit in somebody's office, they actually sit in somebody's cloud. So and then looking at support models, what those things look like, and obviously the marketing materials that you're able to get from that provider that can help you throughout the sales process.
Yeah, I think that's key. And part of those, when we talk marketing materials and such, is key as well. And we've done joint events together, joint lunch and learns, and that's
absolutely.
That's been a great sales tool for us.
Yeah, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to be on the call today. I'm sorry we ran a couple minutes over, but want to let you know if you have any questions, you can enter that in through the chat box in the GoToMeeting. We're happy to answer those, and then also you've got both Scott and my information there on the screen. So if you'd like to contact one of us directly, if you have any questions, feel free to do that if you don't feel like this is the proper form for those questions. Joe, do we have any questions that came in while we're on the line?
Yeah, Brian, I've got one here. I think it's more aimed at Scott, and they're asking, what differences have you seen selling cloud solutions versus hardware sales and support?
Yeah, you bet. So, big difference, I think. Selling hardware and even support is, I want to say, for the typical MSP that's been doing it for a while, easier, and it's what they know. Selling the cloud, I think the biggest piece about selling the cloud is not to walk in and think you're going to sell the cloud in a conversation like you might be able to do with a piece of hardware. The cloud is really more of a, let's start talking about the cloud, and is the cloud the best fit? And I think really being strategic with your customers about the cloud is going to be a good fit at times, and it might not be a great fit at times. And some of the reasons for a fit versus not a fit might be, whether it's application, and some of them might come down to things you can't control, like, hey, this client is just not going to let that server out of their closet. So I think just knowing those type of things ahead of time so that you're having those strategic conversations with your clients over time, rather than just thinking it's going to be a discussion you have like selling a new server and it's going to be a done deal.
Cool. I got one other one here that is they're concerned about kind of the relationship between their service provider and then the cloud provider. So they're asking, what if my customers run straight to the cloud provider for support, or how can I know that you won't cut me out from the middle there?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that is something to look at when you're working with a provider in a resale type platform. And then it really depends on the type of program that you're working in. If you're working in an agent type scenario where you maybe refer that client over, then obviously that client goes directly over to the cloud provider for support. But really what would happen is in a resale scenario, the managed service provider is working directly with the client and then contracting directly with Greenhouse Data for the resources that client is utilizing. So we don't really know who that customer is. So if a customer in a resale scenario comes straight to us for support, we're going to be really unable to help them right out of the gate, just because we don't know who that client is. So that's where in that resale scenario, it's very important to have some lines of support set up so that the customers go through you as the managed service provider first and then come to us. And then if there's issues that as a managed service provider that you're not able to to help with our support, we're always more than happy to conference that customer in or take that warm handoff from you as the reseller to us as the provider to fix whatever problems need to be fixed.
And I think, again, it all partnership. So if I've got to worry about my cloud provider taking a client direct, then I'm working with the wrong cloud provider.
Right.
We're doing too much business together to really even have time to care about thinking about that. And again, we're all working for the same goal, which is get stuff in the cloud, right? That we manage, that's in your cloud infrastructure. And so we've been on, multiple calls, pre-sales engagements with our potential clients talking cloud infrastructure where, I'm pretty open. Let's bring in the experts on this. And, there's been no issue in regards to even concern there. It's all about how do we succeed jointly.
Nope, you're absolutely right from that angle, Scott.
Cool. Well, thanks to both of you guys. Just a reminder to everyone on the line that we'll be sending out a recording as well, and thanks for joining us.
Appreciate everybody's time today.
Thanks, guys.